Hi everyone, Luke here from Weekend Tour Pros. It's Monday, it's Masters Week, the start of the 2023 major season, and I'm absolutely buzzing. Now I haven't quite got myself a green jacket, but the green jumper will have to do, as well as the background light set up in that Masters green. Now over the next few minutes, I'm going to go through my top 5 talking points ahead of this year's Masters to hopefully get you in the mood for the tournament and just as excited as I am. Now let's get stuck in. Okay, so the first talking point and probably the biggest elephant in the room ahead of this year's Masters is the presence of the LIV golfers at the Masters and all of the majors this year after all decided to allow qualified LIV golfers to compete. Now, I don't know what side of the fence each of you are falling on the whole LIV versus PGA Tour versus European Tour debate, but one thing I think we can all agree on is that it's absolutely fantastic that the 4 majors this year will be competed with all of the best golfers in the world present, and I think that's the right call and a fantastic call for golf and for us as golf fans that we'll get to see all of these golfers compete together. So who's going to qualify from the LIV event? Well, there's 18 of the players that have got themselves an invite, and they've done that by one of 3 means. First of all, they might be a past champion. So if I just go through the list, that includes the likes of Sergio Garcia, Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, Patrick Reed, Charles Schwartzel and Bubba Watson, who will all be there as past champions. The second criteria is that they've won a major in the last few years, and that then means the likes of Cam Smith, who I think has done fantastic at the Masters over the last few years, as well as Brooks Koepka, who his last Masters showing, if I remember rightly, was when he had his bad knee and struggled a little bit, and then Bryson DeChambeau, who keeps telling us that Augusta National is a par 68 and then failing to perform very, very well. But it'll be really interesting to see how the 3 of those guys perform this year, given their recent showings at Augusta. And the final criteria of how golfers can qualify is by being in the top 50 of the world rankings at the end of 2022, and that means there's some exciting golfers who were previously on the PGA Tour, such as Abe Ancer, Joachim Neiman, Harold Varner, and Mito Pereira, who was a runner-up in the PGA last year to Will Zalatoris and Justin Thomas. I think it's going to be great that we see all those golfers together and see how they all perform in each other's company. Now, I don't think there's going to be too much animosity for the LIV golfers at Augusta. The crowds are normally really, really respectful, and I think there's a lot of water under the bridge over the last 9 or 10 months, and I think the golfers will give each other a fair chance of performing to their best and will get a worthy champion at the end of it. So that leads me nicely into talking point number 2. And talking point number 2 is this the year that Rory will finally complete the career Grand Slam? Now, I absolutely hope so. I'm a big Rory fan and I'd really, really love for Rory to do it. Now, since Rory won his last major championship, which was the 2014 PGA Championships, he's been back to Augusta 8 times and he's had 6 top 10s in 8 visits to Augusta without getting over the line. Now, the best of those performances was the second that he came last year, runner-up behind Scotty Scheffler, so I think he's trending really, really nicely at Augusta. Equally, he seems to be coming in with a lot of good form. He did have some mental demons, or so we thought. He had some mental demons that he was battling a year or so ago, but since he's taken on that mantle as the voice of the PGA Tour against kind of the LIV golfer rebellion, he seems to have been in absolutely fantastic form, winning 3 times on the PGA Tour and once on the DP World Tour since the end of the last Masters. Add to that, he comes in this week with some fantastic form. Yes, he had a bit of a blip week a couple of weeks ago, but he changed out his driver shaft ahead of the WGC match play and then drove it absolutely beautifully. And he also put an old trusty putter back into the bag and putted the lights out there as well. Rory also said in a recent interview that he played Augusta a couple of weeks ago with the changes and he absolutely loved the course, and I think he scored some really low rounds there as well, so he's definitely got some good vibes going into this year's tournament. So I really, really hope that Rory can finally get that monkey off of his back and finally win the career Grand Slam and join Tiger, Jack, Gary Player, Gene Sarazen and Ben Hogan as a career Grand Slam winner. I think Rory deserves it for everything he's done for golf and just how good a golfer he is. He deserves to get his name on that list. Come on, Rory. So if Rory doesn't complete the career Grand Slam at this year's Masters, that leads me into talking point number 3, which is who will win it. And I think you'd be hard pushed to find anyone who doesn't think that it's a safe bet to back either Scotty Scheffler, the defending champion, or Jon Rahm, who seems to be in the form of his life. Since Jon's had a family and he's got a second child on the way at the moment, he seems to have calmed him down a little bit. He's got that major off of his back and he seems to be playing the best golf of his life. Whereas Scotty, as the defending champion, also seems to be in just the absolute best purple patch that seems to just be never ending at the moment, and he's got that Masters win behind him already, and maybe he'll go on to defend the title. Now he has got a hard task to try and defend that title because only 3 other Masters champions have gone on to defend their title. Now I won't tell you who they are just yet, I'll leave it for you to have a little think about and I'll tell you at the end of this section. But if it isn't one of those 3 golfers, Rory, Scotty or John, who could it well be? Well, I personally think that Jordan's got a sneaky little run at it, Jordan Spieth this year, and there's a little superstitious stat that I want to share with you, which is that Jordan Spieth has won on the last 2 Easter Sundays, and this year's Masters Sunday is Easter Sunday. He won those 2 titles in 2021, the Valero Texas, which was his first win since the Open a few years before, and then last year he won at the RBC Heritage at Harbour Town for his win. For his first win that year as well. So who would put it against Jordan, who seems to be coming back into some really good form to go ahead and win the Masters and put that green jacket on once again. Now, if it isn't one of those golfers, there's that next group of players that are right at the top end of the PGA Tour, which I think you'll find a lot of money going on because there's a bit of value there, which are the likes of Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele. For me personally, I'd like to see one of my favourite golfers win it. Someone like Tony Finau, someone like Tyrrell Hatton, Tommy Fleetwood, Shane Lowry, one of the good guys of golf. I'd love to see one of them putting on the green jacket on Sunday, but it could well be one of those LIV golfers that might come out of nowhere and surprise a little bit, although it wouldn't be a surprise if Cam Smith won it, right? Or maybe DJ, who's already got a green jacket behind him already. So who do you think is going to win? Please tell me down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on who you think is going to win this year's tournament and who you'd want to win it as well. And to go back and just answer that quiz question for you, the 3 golfers that have previously defended their title at the Masters: Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus and Nick Faldo. So talking point number 4 this week, which I think is going to cause a lot of debate, particularly in the press conferences in the lead up to the tournament starting, and that is the lengthening of the 13th hole, the par 5 Azalea. Now that's been lengthened by 35 yards this year with a new tee box further back into the woods, taking that hole from 510 yards to 545 yards. Now Rory's played a couple of practice rounds there recently, and I think he said in a press conference that the second shot for him has gone from being an 8-iron with the ball above his feet to a 5-iron but on a much flatter lie. Now one of the things I really hope doesn't happen from this change is it takes away some of the risk reward from the hole and we see more golfers, particularly if they're out of position, laying up and just playing as a 3-shotter. Now the hole has traditionally been one of the easiest at Augusta and definitely the easiest in the last couple of years, so I totally understand why Augusta are trying to do something different with the hole, but I do think it's a fantastic risk reward hole with Rays Creek running across the front of it, and it is quite a difficult green to hold because there's a lot of kind of bushes and flowers behind the green as well, and we see some really funky chip shots from players that do go through the back by taking a little bit of extra club. Now the reason why I think this is going to dominate a lot of press conferences is because it comes at the same time as the USGA and the R&A have announced their plans to potentially roll back the ball at the top end of the professional game. Now a lot of professional golfers and a lot of the ball manufacturers have come out against this proposal, and I think Rory is potentially the only golfer who spoke out in favour of it at the moment. Now me personally, I think they're trying to solve a problem that only impacts 0.001% of golfers and potentially makes a problem for the other 99.99% of us, which is one of the charms of golf, is that we as amateur golfers can largely play the same golf courses and use the same equipment as the professional golfers and compare ourselves to those players. Taking this away with a change to the rule will take away that ability for us to do it. I also think there's a potential risk for the tours that are just below the level of introducing this rule, where the golfers on those tours will make it even harder for them to make the jump up because they're trying to play with one ball and then immediately they jump up and they've got to play with a different ball, or they've got to be practicing with both, and I think that also limits their chances of winning on the lower level tour that they might be on. So for me personally, I don't necessarily think this is the solution to the problem, but I do understand there potentially is a problem there at the top end of the golf game for professional golfers that maybe needs to be fixed. I just think there's better ways to do it. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think to this whole debate about rolling back the ball? Now the 5th and final talking point is a little bit more of a light-hearted one, and it's the comments from Gary Player in the build-up to the Masters. Gary was asked to rank the 4 major championships from best to worst, and Gary placed the Masters as 4th on that list, saying it was the worst of the 4 major championships because it's the newest and it hasn't built up as many traditions as the other major championships. Now while Gary's absolutely right, the Masters is the newest of the 4 major championships, only running for about 90 years or so, to say it hasn't got as many traditions I think is absolutely crazy. Just thinking off the top of my head, we've got the fact it's at the same golf course every year, the drive up Magnolia Lane, the par 3 contest, the white caddy bibs.
A few moments later.
We've got the champions dinner, the green jacket, the trophy presentation in the cabin, and we've got the honorary starters they have every year, of which Gary Player is one of them. Now, if you're the chairman of Augusta and you're watching this video, please pick up the phone to Gary and say, thanks very much for being an honorary starter, but you're disrespecting our championships, so we don't need you to be there anymore, and let's give it to someone a bit more deserving. I'm obviously joking a little bit. Now, for me personally, I think the Masters is up there with the Open as one of the best two major championships. Now, that's obviously because I'm British, I'm going to say that, but the main reason for me is that I've got lots of core memories of watching golf as a child. It was one of only two tournaments that was always on terrestrial TV, and I used to stay up late on the Masters weekend on the Saturday and Sunday watching the golf and cheering on my favourite golfers. I've got some really fond memories of watching Tiger win in 01 and 02, and a really core memory of watching Mike Weir win it in 2003. Being a left-handed golfer, seeing a fellow lefty win the tournament, I was really cheering him on, and it made me want to pick up a golf club the next day and start playing golf. So for me, Augusta's always going to hold a special place in my heart because it's one of the reasons I got into golf, and I definitely think the one thing we can all agree on is regardless of what order you rank the major championships, it certainly isn't the worst. We all agree that's the PGA Championships, right? Obviously, I'm joking a little bit there. I'd still bloody love to win the PGA Championships, and I think every professional golfer would as well. That brings me towards the end of the video now. I really hope this has whet your appetite for the Masters and you're really excited for the week ahead. All that remains for me to say is if you like the video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. It really does help other like-minded golfers to find my content. And if you do like my content, please do consider subscribing to the channel. I recently passed the 500 subscriber mark and I was really overwhelmed by that and all the golfers watching down the lens that wanted to follow my content. And if you aren't yet subscribing and you want to see more free golf content, there's loads landing on the channel soon, then go on, hit that button and follow the other 500 in following the Weekend Tour Pros Golf channel. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy Masters Week. Come on, Rory, or whoever you're cheering on. Goodbye.